wondering about why did he escape? Why, like, all the, because your book is about this kind of search, and I love the ending. Actually, I have to read it to people, because your ending, the last sentence says to his father, "Tell me about my birth mother." After all the things that he went through and the flood, then he's now come to this place.
Yeah, my book is about a Korean adoptee who's searching but doesn't think that he's searching, right? And so he goes to Prague and North Korea, and he runs away a lot from what he is really on his mind. And I don't know, sometimes I feel like the great literary arc that we have is denial, or maybe that's just like what it is for me. It's like you have these arcs where a character comes to realize that he's been denying something, right? And that, like, I've lived my life kind of that way, and I'm still kind of trudging through these layers and layers of denial, and an identity's put upon me that I've accepted because that's what we do, right? We do that, and I think T, in a way, T has to kind of run away from that in order to realize that he's searching. It wasn't until, it took me 10 years to write the book, and I had that ending pretty early on. Told this story last night, sorry, Lee. And I liked that ending, and I wanted it to, and I held on to it through drafts after draft, and every time I would revise, the ending would work worse and worse. And other parts of the book would work better and better, and the ending would be less and less powerful. And I just couldn't figure out why, but I knew that was the right ending, and so it was like, we talk about kill your darlings a lot, I think, as writers, but this was one darling that I wanted to hold on to, and I knew that it was the right thing, and I was treating, I think what was the problem was I was kind of treating it as a darling and not as the center of the book. Mm-hmm. And what happened was I went to this football game with a mentor of mine, and he was telling me that he had written this book he thought about an ex-girlfriend. And he'd been working on it for 3 or 4 years, and he was in his final edits, and he just asked himself, like, I've been working on this book for so long, like, am I really still hung up on this ex-girlfriend? He's like married and has kids, and he just realized that he wasn't. He wasn't in love with her, and she didn't matter to him anymore. And what mattered to him was his relationship with his daughter. And by thinking about that, he realized that what mattered to the main character in his book was his relationship with his daughter. And I was sitting there going, oh no. Like, that's too much. I'm not gonna take that hard of a look at myself like that. Like, that's why I write fiction. I write nonfiction when I want to do that. But then there's this odd phenomenon that happens where you sell your book and suddenly it's like a real thing and real people are going to read it. And for me, it was like, I could always imagine that people were going to read it in general, but I hadn't realized until after I sold it that my friends were going to read the book. And then it was like, because I know what happens when I read somebody's book and I don't like it. And I'm like, we're still friends, but, I don't say that out loud, but I know what I know what my friends would think too. So I went home and I knew that I had to do this, in order to respect the reader, in order to respect myself, that I had to do that same thing and look really hard at myself and think about what I was hiding from myself when I was 22 in Prague instead of in Korea, where I went the year afterward. And I realized that a lot more of the book was really about adoption than I thought it was. And once I kind of rerouted the book so that the ending was not like a darling, it was really the part of the core of the book, it worked again. And it worked the way that I knew it would work. And it was kind of the same thing. Like, I was running away from myself I think we're always, or maybe it's just my own problem, but I'm always running away from myself, and sometimes you can find yourself that way, and then just run away again, I guess.
Well, it sounds like you actually confronted yourself through that process, and so that's why I was really struck by the time and space of that whole process. And then, because I know you like jokes, you did go east, but you went to Eastern Europe. Not east. So you
Really?
I can understand now.
Yeah, I know.
Is there a place to